here we go. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have Penguins versus Burgers for the Boys on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And one of the things you guys got to consider on Tomb of the Spider Queen are the specialists. This is a push-oriented map, a map where the objective is actually inside the lane. And so here's with very good wave clear, essentially win you the objective and win you the lane. It's a 2-for-1. The primary hero on this map that everyone always wants to look out for is Zool. Once the enemy team has Zool, there's no way to be ahead in the rotation because of the skeletons. You always have to go for picks if you want to beat a Zool. But the Penguins, they're like, we're not going to deal with that nonsense. They're immediately going to ban out the Zool. And that'll be the first ban. Moving over to Burgers for the Boys. What do you think they're going to ban out, Terrace Bass?
A couple options. My team, who admittedly isn't super good at this, always goes with the Sylvanas ban or possibly Zagara here lately. So I wouldn't be super surprised to see one of the two here.
And it looks like Burgers for the Boys agreed. They're banning out that Zagara. She did get nerfed today, about 5% damage across the board, which makes her easier, I should say, to build out of lane, but not quite easy by any stretch of the imagination. And Penguins picking up Sylvanas, so opted into your team strategy. They're like, we want to get more value out of the objective. When we turn in, we want to make sure that those web weavers get a lot of value.
Also gives you a couple options for the start of the game. You can avoid that big clash in the middle of the map and try and just get some early damage where there's not going to be heroes opposing you too.
That is exactly right. And Burgers are always locking in Li Ming. Li Ming until, if you pick up Calamity at level 7, has pretty good wave clear, but that's a long time to wait. You can fall behind pretty far in the early game. Also locking in Rhaegar, who has the best wave clear by default of any support. Malfurion with Moonburn at level 1 is technically a little bit better, but by default Rhaegar has the best wave clear of any support in his base kit. And so they're sort of treading a fine line here. They're trying to get wave clear while trying to make sure they have lots of kill potential with that Li Ming. It's going to make it interesting to see where they go with the rest of their draft, because they left themselves pretty open, picking up their burst and their ranged as well as their support. And Penguins, thinking about it, they're going to lock in Uther, making sure they don't get locked out of their choice of support going into the second ban phase. But now you have Divine Shield. Divine Shield is the thing that Uther offers, and you need to be able to use that offensively. Who do you think they're going to pick up to make sure that they have that Divine Shield value?
Well, Burgers haven't really picked a whole lot of folks that seem to be a hard counter to any players that Penguins could still pick remaining. So I don't know if they want to gamble on a high priority target, almost like a Nillidan, but it looks like ETC is going to be the pickup instead. So still leaving a lot of room to plug in some damage here on the backside.
Indeed. And ETC, notably has the worst wave clear pretty much of any tank. But the ETC Uther combination, you have the power slide with the stun follow-up from Uther. That's a lot. That's 2 full seconds of stun. And you have the potential for Divine Mosh. And an uninterruptible Mosh Pit is a good Mosh Pit.
I guess at the moment there's not a whole lot the Burgers have to interrupt it, even if he was invincible, right? There's not a whole lot threatening that big attack.
I mean, it does force Li Ming into Wave of Force, assuming Wave of Force wasn't what you were going to go anyway. Burgers for the Boys banning out Falstad. Don't want that global presence. I don't know about that decision. This is one of Falstad's weaker maps. Gus can get a lot of value aggressively on the small lanes, but generally speaking, you don't want Sylvanas and Falstad on the same team. Sylvanas has a lot of sustained damage and her gimmick for DPSing buildings, but you usually want a mage regardless of your team composition. And Penguin's thinking about what they want to ban here. I imagine we're going to see a tank ban just because they already have ETC. They want to make sure that Burgers for the Boys does not have their tank of choice.
So who would be your tank of choice if you're Burgers here?
I mean, I feel like I was going to say Johanna. Even after the nerf today, she still has some of the best wave clear of any tank. This is a very wave clear centric map. Li Ming Johanna is an underestimated combination. If you trust your Johanna player is going to land her condemns on multiple targets, you can actually throw your combo at the Johanna, and it's guaranteed to land on everyone who she hits with the condemn. But she gets banned out, and Burgers for the Boys instead picks up Thrall Murden. Thrall is going to be able to lock down that soul lane. With Zagara banned out, there's not a lot of heroes that can contest him in that soul lane. And Murden picked up, going to be just the standard generic tank that he is. Murden just gets, I think, overlooked because he's so strong in every category as a tank. He's like, yeah, he doesn't really add anything special, but he's so good at everything that a tank is supposed to do that it's hard to, ever underrate him.
It was supposed to be world-shattering when he lost Unstoppable from his Dwarf toss, but has that ever seen any real practical difference at non-pro levels of play?
At non-pro levels of play, no. But pro levels of play, there's been a significant difference. because he can't jump out of Kerrigan combos anymore. He can't jump out of stun locks anymore. It's actually been pretty bad for him overall. There's been a lot of Muradin deaths I've seen in professional play. I was like, well, that wouldn't happen 3 months ago. But at normal levels of play, no. And in fact, if you're using jump aggressively to go in, the resistant has been a huge boon, especially with the healing static rework that gives him so much survivability and sustain in those big team fights. Alarak is allowed, and Alarak is in fact on top drafter, so if teams wanted it, they could easily lock it in. Greymane picked up 4 Penguins. That's gonna give them some Divine Shield value, and Chen locked in to counter Thrall in lane. Tychus, however, is picked up. And I don't know how many people know this, but there's one hero in the game that can 1v1 a full health Chen who is drinking, and it's Tychus. Tychus can actually straight kill a Chen by himself. And there's not another hero in the game who has that distinction going for them. What do you think, Terrace Baz? Who do you think won the draft?
It kind of depends on how effectively Greymane can get in there and rip up the damage, right? I mean, he's got an excellent supporting cast behind him, and if he can get a couple of early picks really fast, then Penguins, I think, are going to be in a favorable position. But all in all, I think Burgers for the Boys have an easier job ahead of them with the heroes they picked up.
I would tend to agree with that. And question from Radic from chat, what about the Reverb and Thunderburn nerf? I mean, Thunderburn technically is the same. It's just Reverb that got nerfed, but in exchange for getting half of old Reverb, Muradin gets a free level 1 talent, either Block, Third Wind, or Perfect Storm. So it's maybe a little bit of a nerf in some scenarios and a little bit of a buff in others. And I think it's going to come down to he's going to end up being a little bit more of a situational tank than he was. Speaking of which, we didn't see any heroes picked up that were significantly changed. We don't see any Butcher pickups. I actually think the Butcher would have been maybe a slightly better pickup than Greymane. Just because he would be able to stack his meat up so fast, and Divine Shielded Butcher is one of the scariest things in the entire game. So just maybe they don't have a Butcher player though, or maybe they're not confident in their ability to execute that. They wanted to make sure they had a ranged AA, or just in case some things went sideways and they had to poke.
And one of the things I've seen from the Wild West at Quick Match is that if you're a Butcher player and you're not excellent at Butcher, you're like the primary target for all the hate speech on your team. So he's not the most encouraging hero to play for most people, for sure.
No, but that's the problem with most melee assassins. You gotta pick your moment. You gotta know when to go in. If you're playing a melee assassin, you're just diving on the enemy team all the time. You're essentially usually gonna end up in a 5v1. Just because your team doesn't have the same mobility you do, so they're not necessarily in place to follow up. You really got to pick your moment, wait for your tank to initiate usually, and pick off the person who ends up being out of position in the middle of the team fight. But most melee players don't know that, and as a result, we have a lot of Illidan deaths, we got a lot of Butcher deaths, got a lot of Kerrigan deaths. Really, all the melee assassins, they just die a lot.
They sure got you that 8th time, but by God, in your 9th life, you're going to show them.
Loaded into the game here. I will say that with Tychus, they ended up with slightly better wave clear than they had initially. Tychus's overkill actually is reasonable wave clear. Chen can counter Thrall in that solo lane. So I think that it's going to come down to how strong each team executes their 4-man rotation to see how that works out for them. But on the blue side, we do have 4 Penguins. Machine This on Uther, Scapegoat on Sylvanas, Passionless on Greymane, Marky Bots on Chen, and Mobile 2 on ETC.
And for Burgers for the Boys, driving Rhaegar, we have Bravery, Frontons on Tychus, SIFUs on Li Ming, Maz Devs captaining Thrall, and V-Dids charging forward on Muradin.
So I'm a little bit surprised to see Regen Master picked up for that Chen. Generally speaking, versus Li Ming, we always see Grounding Brew, even on Wave Cushion Mask, because when you self-root with that drink, you really need to make sure you can live through the drinking, and you can't live through a Li Ming combo if you don't take Grounding Brew. And Marky Bots is going to be the solo laner, which means he's not going to be gathering Regen Globes very quickly. He's not part of that strong 4-man rotation. And we just see both teams sharking around mid. Sylvanas in the top lane. Looks like Penguins just doesn't want to fight in the early game. They want to get their 4-man going. They want to have their rotations, and they want to start to dominate the map that way. But a huge combo coming down out of Sifu onto Passionless, chunking him out right at the start of the game. And they're just going to slowly try and work their way up. Sifu in the top, they're just constantly landing these huge orbs. If he actually keeps doing that, picks up Triumvirate at level 4, there's going to be nothing at all that the Penguins is going to be able to do to mitigate that damage.
And they've certainly got the primary target, right? I mean, you saw all those missiles, all those orbs heading straight for Greymane. It's not like it was just a crowd of people. It seems like Burgers knows what they're trying to accomplish with damage.
Indeed, and we talked about this before the game, but Murden did pick up Block at level 1 for that adaptation. Opting for that, and I think that's a good decision versus the Greymane. Is going to help mitigate quite a lot of that damage. Both teams just sort of starting to rotate before the wave is actually clear, and then turning around and like, oh, we haven't quite cleared the wave yet. So maybe new to the idea of a 4-man rotation, trying to work it out. We do see Marky Bots in the bottom lane bullying Thrall all the way back, and this is what I meant about Chen being able to bully Thrall in the lane. There's nothing you can do to a drinking Chen as Thrall. You can't interrupt his drinking at all. As long as he's just sitting there drinking, he's going to mitigate all the damage you're doing to him. Mostef apparently doesn't know that and is wasting Wind Fury procs on the drinking Chen. That's not what you want to be doing.
Now in bottom lane, that seems to be the position that Thrall really wants. If he can't contest Thrall or Chen out in the open, then best he can do is just wait for the wave to hit his gates and scoop up the experience and the gems.
Yeah, he will eventually run out of ammo doing that, however, and Marky Bots, if he wants to play it more aggressively, could actually decide to drink 1 tower out of ammo early. It is something you can sustain with Chen. You can't do 2 anymore. Used to be able to do 2, but you can do 1 relatively easily, and there's just nothing Thrall can do to actually damage you while you're drinking. It's a very difficult matchup. Sylvanas ends up getting picked, and that is going to give Li Ming a reset. They're going to go for another reset on level 2. Lives with 120 health. Machine This does get the heal off in time, but he's going to be forced to back, and now they're down a talent tier, and they're behind in the rotation. They're going to miss some soak here. Machine This is going to stay. The towers are going to help him get that soak, but with the lanes all the way pushed in, he has to back as well because he's out of mana. And they're just so far behind in this 4-man rotation. Even though they are losing the bottom lane, this gives Frontin a chance to rotate down and force Marky Bots out of lane. And again, once you have a Tychus on top of a Chen, that Chen is forced to back up. You can't deal with that. Mostef can take this opportunity to back. And Burgers for the Boys keeping the pressure off of their lanes by having nice, clean rotations and then sending someone down to the bot lane every time they get an advantage.
So this is kind of the game plan we talked about in the beginning. Penguins setup seems like it's geared more for the long game, so a win condition for them looks like parity in this stage, and it looks like they've almost kind of got it. They've kind of evened up the experience total, and they're not super far behind on gems either.
Penguins just, however, lost all the gems in the bottom lane. This did not continue. Mobile 2, actually, with the power slide, picks them up just in time, rotated down. Very nicely done there. A little bit of a mistake there for Burgers for the Boys. When you kill someone in a lane like that and they drop all their gems, they're one of the primary gem holders. You want to make sure you guard the gems so they don't come back and get picked up. Fortunately, we didn't see that. So those gems aren't lost, although they could have been, and that would have been very bad for Penguins. And again, just trying to reestablish this 4-man rotation. ETC now in the bot lane against Thrall. Chen, I assume, is going to rotate down and start to make some work happen up there. Bravery tries to rotate down, but gets caught out by Marky Bots. Rhaegar, however, is going to be able to get out of there very easily. And Scapegoat eats a full orb, gets completely chunked, but does manage to get out in time. With that, despite the fact that he has no peel from his team. And it looks like Mobile 2 is just trying to aggressively force the Thrall out of the ring, making sure that Marky Bots is protected. But in the process, he's leaving his team undefended in the top lane, and Sylvanas ends up going down for free again to the Li Ming combo.
And so both teams have enough gems to get their first round of spiders. Burgers with the man advantage trying to get the turn in top, but fair bit of interrupts coming from Penguins, just trying to stall long enough for Sylvanas to get back.
And Sylvanas is most of their wave clear. I mean, Greymane has acceptable wave clear, but Sylvanas is really the wave clear hero, the siege hero that they've been hoping for. They do manage to get the turn in. A little bit of a mistake there from Burgers for Boys, letting that turn in happen when they were up a talent tier and up a hero. They were in a 5v4 scenario, up a talent tier, and they still let the turn in happen, despite the fact that they were ahead on the rotation. Hopefully they manage to clear out these web weavers very effectively and they don't end up doing too much. I almost wonder if they did this on purpose, because their wave clear is so much better, especially you know, now that they're ahead in the lane, their lanes were very pushed in. Maybe they wanted to let them turn in and hope that turn in didn't get any value, but essentially wasting the gems. But I think if that was the strategy, it's going to backfire on them.
Losing Rhaegar is certainly not conducive to that plan.
No, not at all. It's going to give him a lot less sustain in lane. Sylvanas pushing with the Web Weaver is also going to increase the value dramatically. Mostef will be able to defend a lot as long as he's focusing on killing the Web Weaver. Currently he's focusing on trying to kill Chen, which again does not work. You can't 1v1 Chen as Thrall. A little bit of a mistake there in play from Mostef. Moving back to the top lane. See, the Web Weaver is at a quarter health. They're going to get the entire front wall, but not more than that. And they will have to rotate mid right after this. And they're actually staying even in experience despite all of this, which is pretty amazing, actually, that they're losing these structures and still managing to stay even in experience.
So credit to Penguins in all this, managed to keep their health long enough so they can get a full engage here in mid as they slide in, take out Tychus in quick order.
And that's, again, the advantage of Sylvanas. Tychus felt safe to see, like, oh yeah, I'm under my fort, I'm fine. You have a Sylvanas in your team, you're not under a fort, you're under a dead, empty building that is doing absolutely nothing. And that is going to be a fort off of this turn-in now because of that Tychus pick. And Sylvanas, they're even going to be able to get the tower. No, they opt to back off. They're not going to push their luck too hard. 10 is going to be picked up here momentarily for Pengwins. And they are just a little bit further ahead than they expected to be off of that Tychus pick. Tychus was just a little too far forward.
So if you're Burgers in this situation, do you try and force a turn-in at some point, or do you just wait until you're at 10?
You wait till you're 10. You can't push with the Web Weavers when you're down a talent here, because if they try and engage on you, you can't actually take the fight. So you have to stay backed up. We do see, by the way, that Li Ming picked up Zay's Vengeance at 7, so it didn't go for Calamity, so their wave clear, while it could have been better than Penguins, is actually worse. But a little bit of a mistake there, in my opinion. Burgers the Boys really needed that additional wave clear to stay ahead in the rotation, which they've been doing such a good job of. And Piercing Bolt picked up for Muradin over Battle Momentum, which means we're not going to have that late-game healing static value that we usually see, where Muradin just becomes basically immortal in team fights versus heavy melee compositions. And versus essentially 4 melee, or 3.5 melee, it would have been very, very valuable to have that healing static up more often. But opted not into it. The Siege Giants camps are capped. They are going to be pushing bottom. Mostef's still down here, soloing the lane. Sifu rotates down, trying to get another kill on the Scapegoat, but Scapegoat's learned to dodge those orbs. She's like, oh, those hurt. After the first 3 deaths, I got it. I'm not gonna walk into the orb anymore.
So Penguins almost with enough gems in hand to take this. I guess they're trying to empty their gems before Burgers can engage with 10s themselves. Just reduce the risk of what happens if you lose a fight.
And indeed, that's something you can do when you're an advantage on the map. You can just, you know, turn in, play safely, and do anything that makes you safe. They actually do have enough for a second turn in, but Burgers has 10 now, and they're going to try and force the fight. But no, Blue Web Weavers end up coming down again. That is a double turn in, and again with that Sylvanas. At this point, Burgers for the Boys probably needs to take a fight and win it so that they can be pushed this safely, because they have a really good teamfight comp, and they haven't taken the wave clear talents they need to take to do this efficiently. And they agree with me. They're going in and brawling in this mid lane. This is a 5v5. Barrel comes down. Sifu, a little bit overextended, ends up going down. A huge mosh actually lands, and Sestral comes down on front. A Divine Shield on Chen for some reason. He was actually at full health. Laser goes down, but gets instantly erased. And Burgers for Boys wanted to take that fight, tried to take that fight, and ended up losing that fight. That's really bad for them with what we were pushing in.
I think the thing that they stumbled on there is when the fight engaged, Thrall was about 5 steps behind from actually engaging in the fight, so he wasn't in a position to do any damage as the fight started, so that might have cost them a hero.
That's actually true, I agree. It's one of those things, when you're on columns, you should be able to know if your team's ready. Like, we're looking for a fight, we're looking for a fight. You know, if someone says, I'm not ready, I'm not there, give me 1 second, I'm 2 seconds out, I'm looking for a flank. But we didn't have that level, I think it's pretty clear. They didn't have that level of communication, and this is going to be the first keep down with the Sylvanas pushing. I don't think there's any way they can save it. The Tychus actually doing enough damage to force everyone back. Overkill does come down. Wave of Force with the Force in. Scapegoat completely out of mana. Mobile 2 going to get isolated and picked off. If we can just get 1 reset. Machine this does end going down. Sifu with the teleport forward, trying to get more value, but out of mana, and they still have Web Weavers, but they do manage to save the keep. A very nice defense from Burgers for the Boys.
Considering how the fight started, that's probably the best outcome Burgers of the Boys could have gotten. They secured a Teak down and didn't lose any more structures than really they had to.
And they still haven't lost really any of their gems, so they still have quite a bit in the bank, 76 on them, 34 already turned in. They could secure a turner now. 13 is, in some senses, the least dangerous down tier to fight down. So if they got a turn in, healed to full, got full mana, push with their web weavers, they could de-push all their lanes and potentially, you know, make Penguins lose a fight the same way they losing fights underneath the web weavers where it's not entirely favorable. But Penguins aggressively invading and trying to get a pick before this happens. Burgers Boys making the correct decision here. They're just backing off. They're going to get healthy. They're going to force a fight when the web weavers are actually on the map.
So real nice block out from ETC, just isolating Tychus and just making sure he's sentenced to death.
That was 2 heroics spent for that kill, Mosh and Divine Shield, but it ended up working out. They're going to be able to clear this web weaver in the bottom basically instantly. Vita's going in. Not sure that's a good decision, even for a Murden. 2 heroics to save his overextension, Sunder, and Ancestral Healing. He will get out of there, but that just delayed Penguins for a little bit, not for really long enough to matter. And I don't think it was worth those 2 heroics. They could have gotten more value just by going and pushing with the web weavers. The web weavers would have helped them clear the waves faster, augmenting their relatively weak wave clear. And instead there's just yet another brawl. It looks like Penguins is actually going to go for the keep now that they have that clear and they're up a talent tier. Or still up a talent tier, rather. And we just see the laser coming down, but everyone just engaging like, okay guys, we got the keep, we're going to leave. Very good coordination so far from Penguins, and Bookers for the Boys not quite able to keep up.
A really good job there from Penguins, managing to secure the keep without losing any heroes or any real substantial health on the way out. So they'll be in a good position to prevent the immediate return in from Burgers.
We do see Burgers for the Boys just pushing out the bot lane. It looks like they're trying to soak 13. They have enough gems for another turn in, and Penguins does not. So now that they have 13, they're again in a position where they can force a fight. But Penguins opting to go for boss. They see everyone in the bot and they're like, oh yeah, we can just go for boss. I think Burgers for the Boys is going to figure this out a little too late. They're going to see them out on the map, and this is going to essentially waste the turn in. Very good decision making by Penguins. When Burgers for the Boys gets this turn in, they will have to defend boss, which Penguins can either push with and get the top keep, or opt not to push with it and defend and waste the turn in. Either way, Penguins is going to come out ahead in this trade unless they accidentally wipe, essentially. Like that's what they need. Burgers for Boys really just needs an ace here in order to have any chance of not making this bad for them.
And this is the way it starts. A big Sundering is going to take out ETC, so that mosh pit's not going to be available for this, and they're on the hunt.
A completely wasted Wailing Arrow. Marky Bots with an amazing keg, actually, for to help his team gets engaged. Machinist is mounted, manages to dodge the orb, does not end up going down, but Scapegoat gets isolated by the Thrall, and finally Thrall showing his worth there. That Sunder and that pickoff on Sylvanas were absolutely critical. Web Weavers are pushing in the bot lane. They're going to start to make a comeback here. This is Burgers for the Boys starting to make a comeback. This is where it starts. That boss versus the Web Weaver, we do see Thrall harking back to start to deal with that, and they're just going to get this fort. They want to get this fort for that increase in experience. They are going to be down to talent tier soon, so they need to start that race to come back in the experience.
Yeah, when Penguins were heading for boss, if Burgers were able to guess that that's what was happening, I think getting the turn in was the correct answer, because it allowed them to not worry about mid lane for about a minute, which with the keep down, they needed that time to make an offensive move.
Unfortunately, neither team has a turn in available for a while, which means Burgers for the Boys is now forced to back off. They need to passively soak all their lanes in order to get 16, and then they can take another fight. And if they start winning these fights consistently, like they won that last one, they will end up being in good shape. Curious to see what talent Rayman is going to take here. We did one of his preferred talents versus heavy CC comps did get removed, but he actually opts into Executioner, and they don't have any slows on their team. They have just the oh no they do have Pressure Point. They have Keg Smash. I always forget about Chen. So the stuns and the slows will be enough to consistently keep that activated. That's what happens when no one plays Chen for a while. You forget that Chen has a slow built into his kit.
Chen has one big obvious ability and then some other stuff to do on the downside, I guess.
And by obvious ability, I assume you mean the drinking, because the drinking is what everyone talks about.
Oh, definitely.
And again, Penguins is just sharking around. They're looking for a fight. They're looking to isolate someone with Keg. They're, you see Marky Bots hiding out in the bush. He's like, yeah, if you guys come out here, something's going to happen. And Burgers Boys is like, no, we're going to stay in our base. We're just going to hang out in here for a little while, soak 16. We're going to take a rain check on that team fight, but if you come back in like half a minute when we're on even talent tiers, we'd be happy to accommodate you. And Penguins is like, okay, well, let's just go get our bruisers then. If you're not going to come out and play dangerously, we're just going to go get our bruisers, because there's nothing really else for us to do on the map.
It's one of the things you hear a lot is that you should try and take mercenary camps so that they time with the objective or are going to be in a lane where you're not going to be if you're going to force an issue somewhere else. But if there's really nothing else to do on the map, if you take it early, then maybe it's up for you to take again.
And Burgers Boys sharking around the turn in here, guarding it, not soaking. I don't think that's a very good decision. They need 16. They're so close. They're only a couple waves off. They do end up rotating back and starting to get that turn in. They're going to have to clear mid. That bruiser camp is going to be pushed in with the catapults, and they don't want that lane to get pushed in if they can possibly help it. The further that lane's pushed in, the less time they have to force a fight, because it will eventually get to their core, and blue team can just not... They don't have to win a fight. Oh, Thrall overextending in the lane again, ends up getting stunned out. 16 finally picked up, but now they can't force the fight because Thrall is dead. Wailing Arrow does pretty much get wasted there. But they're trying to... Are they trying to end? They're going in 5v4 with a Sylvanas. Are they just getting the tower? They're just getting the tower. They're going to back up. They're going to get the tower and back up. Or they're going to get the tower and sit there. This is really scary. I'm not sure what the Penguins wants to be this deep.
Yeah, maybe trying to just put a threat in mid so that it doesn't let Burgers deal with the spiders in top or bottom. If they can safely collect 2 extra keeps out of this, then winning's almost assured.
Is indeed. I believe Boss will be up after this, so we do see the Keg again, isolating front. He does get cleansed, however, and Ancestral. Nice save there by the Rhaegar player. And Greymane gets absolutely erased. The leaning resets are real and are starting to happen. Mirror Ball has been picked up, which gives her even more threat of damage. Marky Bots is going to go down, gets stunned into the wall. Divine Shield, the last second. He has that Brewmaster's balance. The movement speed increase is going to allow him to get out. But if they can catch up to him, they can with the slow on the Rhaegar Totem. And that ends up being 2 for none. But they lost top keep to that Web Weaver.
And so I'm not sure how it happened, but a crucial moment in that fight might have been however ETC's mosh pit got canceled. You heard it very briefly go off and then instantly shut down.
That was the Wave of Force from Li Ming. And again, that's one of the things you have to take. If you're up against an ETC as Li Ming, you need to take Wave of Force so you have that interrupt potential on mosh pit.
So if you're Burgers and you're behind, do you force the issue with Boss here? I mean, how do you get back in this game quickly?
I mean, you got to consider how long is Chen dead for, because Chen has Barrel. Barrel is one of those heroics that can steal a boss away. And I think if they'd gone right for Boss and just forced the issue, they could have burned it down in time before Chen came back alive. But now, with Chen coming up, they just can't afford to take that risk. But neither team has turn-in, and Burger for Boys is closer to turn-in, so they can afford to gather 8 more gems and then turn in and then force the fight, pushing out their lanes in the meanwhile. But when your lanes are this pushed in and when there's catapults everywhere, you're not gonna get as much value from your turn-in. You really do need to win a team fight. But the Web Weavers can force a team fight, and if you win that, then you can go boss and end. So it's really questionable. Mobile 2 actually stuck here, does get stunned out, does have to use Barrel. Marky Bots does have to use Barrel to save him, and they pick up the Bruisers. At this point, I think Penguins really just needs to soak 20. If they can take a fight where they're up a talent tier again, they've been winning those fights pretty consistently. Mostef actually completely out of mana, and they're trying to start this fight with one of their critical heroes completely out of mana. Brawl does not have a lot of mana. He might not even have enough mana for Sunda right now, honestly. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them. The Divine Mosh does come down. 3 people caught in it. Super overextended. Mostef goes down instantly. Sifu is going to get kicked onto by Marky Bots. Does not have teleport to get away. Finally has it, but the kick comes out again. Li Ming ends up going down, and that was just a brutal fight for Burgers for the Boys.
They managed to take off enough health from Penguins to prevent just an immediate game loss right here and now, but I mean, that kind of ruins their chances of getting any sort of big aggressive move to get themselves back in it.
Indeed, you see Marky Bots getting very low, but with all the juice, with his kick, with that speed increase from Brewmaster's balance, does so much work. Frontin is going to go down. Bravery tries Ancestral and does not end up working out. Vitas is going to go down as well. That's 20 picked up for Penguins, and they can just end. That is an ace. That is going to be a 5-man wipe. You can't get away from a Chen at this point in the game. And that will be game.
And it was really touch and go there for a bit until even really this last team fight here at the end. It looked like Burgers were always right on the cusp of being able to turn it around. They won team fights when they needed to, and just couldn't quite pull it off there at the end.